right, welcome everybody to Atheist Edge, and welcome to Stardust, who's joining me as my special guest tonight, as we are discussing the Roe v. Wade overturning, the horrible news that we got. Stardust, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a hectic week for me.
Yeah.
Everything's going good for you on your side?
Yeah, everything's been all right, despite the news. So
yeah. So I've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Disoriented, Jim, our former Atheist Edge, he's in the chat, so I want to say a special hi to him and everybody else. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. First of all, I just wanted to get your I want to first say, everybody, Stardust is linked in the description below. She's a Twitch streamer. She does YouTube videos too, I think. What else do you do, Stardust? Anything you wanted to plug before we get started?
yeah, I'm on Twitter. I do some good memes on Twitter. I usually just memes on Twitter, but they're good memes, so you should check them out. Tweets from Star, and I'm on Twitch and on YouTube. I run a panel show once a week on Sunday, so. Awesome. Which you will be on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be on her channel right after this. I should put that in the description below too. I'm going to do that before we end. But so one thing I wanted to get on with the show. So let's go ahead and bring up what I've got here. This stuff here. So in the description below, I put a document that I've compiled. It's got all kinds of stuff. I wanted this show to be kind of like a one-stop shop for what needs to happen going forward since this since the overturning. I wanted this show to be something that you could share to anybody and say, hey, this is what we need to do. So the first thing I wanted to cover here is what I found here on Ballotopia about the difference in fundraising. So let's get your reaction, Stardust, on these numbers here. Can you see these? Are they too small? I can make it bigger.
I see. So receipts.
These are the receipts for the DNC and the RNC from 2021 to 2022. We've got like $250 million here almost in differences.
Yeah.
And yeah, Google Docs is not a great way to do
and
this.
I saw it said dispersed as well was oh whoops, sorry, I think I messed it up. Sorry.
I'm messing it up. Well, I'll just shrink it back down and I'll read it myself. Disbursements were 400 and almost double it for the RNC.
Yeah.
Cash on hand was almost double. And let me just shrink that down a little bit more. Then we can read the other part. Debt owed. Yeah, and then the DNC had some debt, like 3 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not billions.
Wow.
What am I talking about? Billions. We're talking about $250 million. Yeah, that was right. So yeah, we're obviously the Republicans are out raising us right and left here.
I'm not surprised. People like to complain on social media about, oh, I get all these text messages from the DNC and they're always asking me for money. And lo and behold, the DNC actually has way less money than the Republicans do. So, yeah.
Right. Do you think it's because we're a highly fractured sect of politics?
I don't know that it's necessarily any more fractured than the Republicans are. I think just Republicans tend to be more organized, and because of the demographics, you've got older people who tend to be Republicans who probably are more likely to go out and vote, have more disposable income as well. So, I mean, there's probably a variety of different reasons why this happens, but definitely I've seen a lot of people complaining that, well, you had 5 weeks to fix this issue since we found out it was going to happen. And I can't believe Nancy Pelosi is asking me for money when they all make this much money. And we know that, the Republican politicians make just as much money, if not more. So So yeah, I think people underestimate how much money the Republicans are willing to fundraise for their causes. So
No, totally.
yeah.
Even like when I'm doing debates and stuff, I notice that people who gravitate to the right are way more willing to throw their money to
Mhm.
make a statement. Do you notice that?
Yeah. I've noticed that as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm not crazy. Okay. So here's a question for you. And I attempted to answer it myself here with this part here. Here, I don't have it on the screen. Paths to reinstatement for abortion at the federal level, because obviously that's what we want, right?
Mhm.
I see that we have the Women's Health Protection Act of 2021. That's up for Senate vote. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But is there anything else that you know about? Because I don't think that there is. But if I'm wrong, and I'm keeping my eye on the chat. So if you guys know of anything, please let me know so we can go Google that right quick because I don't know about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything else at the federal level. I think it's at state levels now. So
Okay. And we'll talk about the state level stuff too in a
Mhm.
second. But at the federal level, we've got the Women's Health Protection Act of 2021. And that's a Senate bill. It already passed the House. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this real quick. And so what happened, we had 3 roll call votes on that. And the last one was on the 28th of February. And that was man, I'm going to fuck up this word, cloture vote. I believe that is a vote to end the debate and just go ahead and take the vote now. I believe that is what the meaning of that word is. And I'm sure somebody will correct me if I misstating that. And that was the Democrats. They tried to instate that. So that's where we are on that. I don't know if you know anything about that bill or not. I am not too well versed in it.
Yeah, I'm not too well versed in it either. I've just been paying attention to things on a state level.
Right. So that's where we are on the federal level. We've got to pressure the Senate to get this bill passed. And we are all aware of how split the Senate is. And then we've got the midterms. The primaries are not quite over. I should skip this because we're already on this subject. So let me just go down. We're on the subject of the primaries in the Senate. So here is a breakdown of what's going on in the states. Some of this chart here is about the views on abortion by the state. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. The last 3 columns are about senators and how to deal with them. Okay. So the first 3 columns here, the first 5 columns, I'm sorry, are about the views on abortion by state, percent of adults who say abortion should be either legal in all or most cases or illegal in all or most cases, don't know, blah, 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 right? So like Alabama, Arizona, I only included in this chart the states that are here in color. These are the states that had trigger laws, right? All the laws, all the states that once the abortion, once what Roe v. Wade got overturned, they had some kind of laws that went into place or are having them go into place right now, where abortion will not be open and available. So that's this chart here. If you wonder if you're in any of these states, Alabama, these 22 states, I'm going to read them all because it's only 22 and it's important. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. If you are in any of those states, if you know anybody in any of those states, listen up, pay attention, share this video to those people. That's where the activism is. That's where we're trying to do the work, because those are the people that we need to move and persuade in order to make any kind of headway federally, if that's our goal. I mean, we can also concentrate on the states. What is your reaction to that? Do you think we should just concentrate on the states or the federal?
So I think
Oh.
that as a whole, I mean, obviously we should focus on both, but as a whole, we tend to not pay enough attention on the state level when it comes to electing people who represent us and like carry the people's will and all of that. So I think it's important that since there is this shift towards leaving things up to the state, and that seems like what a lot of these decisions, now coming out are going to be to throw decisions back to the states. It seems like it only makes sense for us to really focus on the states. I think way too many people, way too many adult Americans don't really pay attention to the state level, to their local level elections, and they only vote every 4 years. And we know that voting every 4 years doesn't really do anything. So.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't. I have never been a big voter, really, honestly. I didn't vote until the Joe Biden election, and honestly, sometimes I do feel like I wish I hadn't voted for him, but then I remember Trump, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. So I'm trying to be better, or I don't know. I mean, so yeah, let's go on that tangent for a second, just for a second, because that's part of this, right? And we're gonna go to this story about Joe Biden nominating Chad Meredith. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
You haven't heard of it at all? Okay. So Chad Meredith, apparently, and we can actually read these articles. I did just skim them because I didn't want to be too informed since this is a show. He nominated an he didn't nominate yet. The rumor is he's going to nominate. Apparently, there are some White House emails saying that he's going to nominate this guy. This guy is an anti-abortion, pro-life guy. This is some kind of deal that he struck with Mitch McConnell to nominate him in the federal judgeship in Kentucky. So I'm not really sure what we get out of this. That's not really clear in the stories that I've read. But I don't know. What do you think? Could there be some good reason for that? Can you conceive of something? You may actually open up one of these. Here we got.
Let's take a look at one of these and see.
I got the them story. I included this them story because this one they actually write in their title that Biden did nominate. Biden nominated, and I thought that was weird because there's no confirmation that I can find as of like right before the show that he actually did nominate him. That's why I included this one. So I can also make this bigger, of course, because this is Google. Yeah. Okay. So mere days after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating the long-held constitutional right to abortion, President Biden has reportedly struck a handshake deal to nominate an anti-abortion lawyer to a lifetime federal judgeship in Kentucky. As first reported by the Courier-Journal, government officials, including Kentucky Representative John Yarmouth, Democrat of Louisiana, have confirmed that Biden will nominate Chad Meredith to a federal judge's seat when one opens in the state. Biden allegedly struck the deal. You see, when one opens up in the state, so it's not even open yet, and they're saying that he did nominate him. I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, if it hasn't opened yet, then I would be a little bit I would be a little bit skeptical if it hasn't even opened yet. I don't know the exact procedure for nominating, but I thought the space has to be open for there to be a nomination.
Right. Okay. So you're on the same page as me. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'll keep reading. You tell me to stop. You tell me to stop. Okay. Where was I? Struck the deal with Biden allegedly struck the deal with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in exchange for Republicans agreeing not to hold up future federal nominations. Okay, here we go. Agreeing not to hold up future federal nominations by the Biden White House. Okay, so that's the deal.
Interesting.
If Biden gets any other chances to nominate somebody, Mitch McConnell is promising with his cross my heart, hope to die, that he will not hold up anything for Biden should he get a chance, if he gets a chance.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that worth it?
It
I
might
don't
be. I don't know. I don't know because the Republicans do like to gridlock things, right?
They do. He could renege on the deal.
He could renege on the deal. Yeah.
And
It's
then we're
people are
stuck
saying
with
never
this
trust
guy.
the turtle man. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Don't touch the turtle. No, man. Screw that. Like, we have majority. If he was able to, inspire a blue wave in the midterms, which
Mhm.
I'm not going to hold my breath, right? But let's just say, in some alternate universe that happened, then we wouldn't have to worry about him holding up anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
reason. Okay. You want to keep reading this, or you want to move on?
Yeah. Yeah. It may. And I think either way is fine. So. Um,
Okay, I'll read a little bit more. I think
yeah.
you want to know a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
So, according to the paper, a promise we're definitely sure the GOP will honor this time. McConnell and Meredith's office both declined to comment, and a White House spokesperson said only that we do not comment on vacancies. Yarmouth's office said the White House had informed the representative of the president's plan, as did current Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Meredith is the former deputy counsel to former Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin and Solicitor General for Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He is a member of the right-wing lawyers group, the Federalist Society, and was one of Governor Bevin's key legal weapons in advancing Republicans' anti-abortion agenda in Kentucky. And by the way, Kentucky is definitely one of these states on this list here. Where is it? Yeah, they have two Republican senators. Their primary has already passed. No, that's the wrong one. Yeah, they have two Republican senators. Their primary has already passed. They're 36% not in favor of abortion at all. 57% totally in favor of never having abortion. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that maybe it would be an okay deal for them, especially knowing that the constituents within Kentucky are generally anti-abortion. So,
but I mean, if they were really willing to not hold up anything on the federal level, which
yeah,
I can't even conceive of that. No,
yeah.
Mitch McConnell not stopping it. No, I don't believe you. Okay, let's move on from that, shall we? So, yeah, Chad Meredith being nominated to a federal judgeship. Whether or not that actually happens, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that we need something a little bit more tangible than just a promise from Mitch McConnell, who I do not trust at all whatsoever. Yeah, so that's the same thing right there. Which states have lost abortion rights? We are talking about that right now. I read all of them, and I'm showing you this. So on the federal level, we can pressure these senators. We can. Do you know about open primaries?
Yeah, open primaries in which anybody from any party can vote in, right? Am I correct in that? Okay.
Right. Apparently, I was not able to pull together a comprehensive list for you guys. I'm going to update this document later on, so that will be here at some point, where you will know if your state is an open primary place, so you can go and vote in the Republican primary if you want, and undermine whatever agenda they may have. I think that's a great idea. I think that if we split their votes, if we consolidate our own votes, then maybe that might be a path towards getting some things done.
Yeah.
Hey Nab, how you guys doing? Hey Uncle Beck, Cupcake Jenna, how you guys doing? Great to see you guys. So period tracking apps. You heard of this?
I have heard of this. This one's this one's very interesting.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I was so curious about this. I was like, man, that can't be real. That's what I was thinking when I first saw this. Like,
Mhm.
really? So I just had to go find some articles. This is the one I ended up saving. Some social media users are arguing. This is from Newsweek, by the way. Article by Duraga Roche, I believe.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
some social media users are urging women to delete apps they may be using to track their periods following the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Several states have trigger laws that are now taking effect. Blah, blah, blah.
I've seen many threads on Twitter about this where people are talking about deleting their period tracking apps. The only apps that people are saying to keep are ones that store data abroad. So if there's like if there's a government ruling to turn over data, the only ones that would be safe from that are people who store that data abroad.
Right.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of apps that are saying that, oh, we won't, we won't give data out. But if it is mandated by like the government, then it's not like they have much of a choice. The only ones that have a choice are
Right.
the ones that are not subject to that authority. So
Right. And that's basically what this article goes on to say.
yeah.
Prosecutors have subpoena power, and in the event that you need an abortion, or you miscarry, or you travel across state lines, you need to think very seriously about what is on your phone, McLaughlin went on. McLaughlin was, sorry, should have read that earlier. Elizabeth C. McLaughlin was a progressive attorney and activist that they interviewed for this video, for this article. So, yeah. Prosecutors have subpoena power, and in the event that you need an abortion or you miscarry, I read that part. For example, if a state were to pass a law making it illegal for a woman to procure an abortion, and she did so anyways, the information on the period tracking app could be used to prove pregnancy and subsequent loss of pregnancy. It is not clear whether states will pass laws that would see women criminally charged for having an abortion, but critics say legislation now being considered in Louisiana would criminalize women who have abortions and could see them prosecuted for homicide. Well, potential prosecutions for women who could rely on period tracking technology. Unlike doctors, the apps are not bound by patient privacy rules under HIPAA, and the information on the apps has sometimes been sold to third parties such as Facebook and Google. So, I mean, they may already have access to it. The Flow is the most popular period tracking app, shared users' information with Facebook from 2016 to 2019, but has since ceased to do so. And the company now says it does not share data with third parties. So, I mean, yeah, it sounds pretty legit to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Look, I think it's clear that we're in a point in time where the Republican Party is having this resurgence of power. I don't know what to do about that other than try to make good information and arguments, but we really need to try to reach out to people across the aisle and see how to change their minds, because they do have a lot of power right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot more people on the conservative side than we give credit for who are willing to hear the arguments for keeping abortion legal. One thing whenever I'm arguing for abortion being legal, I'm always trying to argue like from a very center stance, because I feel that is the easiest way to get people from the other side to see your point of view, right? So even if you view life as beginning at fertilization, right? Even if we say that we believe that, at the end of the day, banning abortion doesn't stop abortions. We know that from all the studies that have been done on it, illegal abortions pretty much replace safe and legal abortions by the numbers, like one for one, that immediately is replaced by illegal abortions. So we know that it doesn't reduce the amount of abortions. If you really want to reduce the amount of abortions, the way to do it is not making abortion illegal. The way to do it is looking at the reasons for why people seek out abortions and trying to alleviate those. But those are longer term problems that need longer term solutions. And I think a lot of conservatives have been swayed by that argument that, this is not something that's going to reduce abortions, and if anything puts more families at risk, because now you've got this increased maternal mortality rate, and 60% of women who seek out abortions already have children. So if you've got all of these women who are seeking out abortions, and they're seeking back alley abortions, and now they're putting their lives at risk, you're now putting these children at risk of losing their mother. How pro family is that? Right.
I heard it said recently, I think it was Dusty. He said they're not really pro-life, they're pro-birth. Because once they're born, they don't really care, right?
Yeah.
When you're having these conversations with them, do you feel like you're having any kind of success? I mean,
I find I think there are more pro-abortion rights conservatives than we give credit for. I think it's just the anti-abortion conservatives who are the loudest. I feel like I've run into quite a few pro-abortion rights conservatives. So I do feel that it works that way. And one thing that, the left and the liberals have kind of dropped the ball on is letting the conservatives run away with this idea of like the conservatives being the party or the ideology that's like pro-family. Why did we ever let them get away with that? Why did we ever let them monopolize that? Like, we know again that the left and liberal policies tend to be better for families. There's no reason that conservatives are the ones who should be having this monopoly on being the party of family values.
Yeah, I mean, where do they even get that idea from? They're just
I think it's partly our fault.
Traditional family.
Yeah, it's traditional family, but I think it is partly our fault because we I don't know. I feel like there's this tendency among leftists and liberals to kind of like turn away when people start talking about families and talking about futures and things like that. And we really should be focusing on it because our policies are better for families, like period. Right. And oftentimes, like part of the conservatives, like they're growing numbers and like growing getting support in like immigrant communities and minority communities, because minority communities are very pro-family, right? And so I think we need to refocus. We shouldn't have let them run away with that narrative that they are the ones who are caring about families. We care about them too.
Right.
If not more. So
I care about families very, very much. I don't think that a family is strictly defined as a dad, a mom, and 2.5 kids.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got extended families. The extended family, multi-generational family has existed far longer than the nuclear families existed. But even then, we should be, if we care about families, period, it doesn't matter what that family's makeup is. We are like the side of family values. So
what do you think is the knockdown? I'm sorry, this is kind of a big question, I guess, but what do you think is the knockdown argument for abortion? What do you think is the one argument that has the most convincing power for people who are just totally against it?
Yes. So I personally think, and this is why I try to make my arguments not be based on this. For us, it's very easy for us to say that life doesn't begin at fertilization, or human life doesn't begin at fertilization. But we have to accept that there's going to be a large percentage of people who just like fundamentally believe that a human life begins at fertilization. right? And if you truly believe that a human life begins at fertilization, and you believe that there are all of these children that are being, killed every day, you would do anything to make that stop. So I think the sooner we learn to accept that, people believe that, and try to work around that argument, it works better for us. My arguments are never based on whether somebody believes whether that's life or not. What we do know is that abortion is going to happen regardless. And and if we want to reduce abortions, the solution is not making abortion illegal. The solution is providing better safety nets, providing more easily accessible contraceptives, education, all of the above.
Just so I'm clear, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
I understand. You're saying that the best way is to attack the idea that life begins at conception.
I don't think even attacking that idea, people are going to believe that regardless, right? If you truly, so if you try to look at it from their perspective, right, and you truly believed that life began at conception, um, and you thought that all of these children don't even get a voice, and you're the only person who can speak for them, you would stop at nothing to make those deaths stop, right? If you truly believe that this is human lives being killed. We obviously are like, I don't necessarily believe that. I don't view it as a human life, but when it comes down to it, people are believe in that, and that's not something that's going to be easily changed for them. I think the better argument is that, sure, for you, a life may begin at conception, but regardless of that, their abortions are going to happen. And if you want to reduce abortions, it making them illegal is not the way to do it. It doesn't make them less. Basically, it doesn't reduce abortions at all. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I put this back up because it's 23.8 deaths per 100,000 live births. This is maternal mortality rate for 2020. And then for the abortions, it was for 2013 to 2018, 0.41 deaths per 100,000 abortions, right? So clearly a vast discrepancy in the mortality there, right? Childbirth is deadlier than getting an abortion.
Yeah, it is.
So you have there a deadly parasite. We can argue about the word parasite.
Yeah.
I can drop that word entirely. If it makes somebody uncomfortable, we can just say the human.
I don't mind it. I personally don't mind it. So I don't view it as a human life yet, but I just, when I'm arguing with people from the other side, that's why I try to adopt some of their language. So
why can't we just call it a human parasite? I mean, it is a human parasite. Yeah. But I mean, I'm totally fine calling it life. I'm totally fine with calling it human, right? We human beings kill people all the time. Living humans, they're dangerous things. These humans that are walking around with, knives and guns and cars all the time. And when they have those things, they're dangerous. And we all agree, usually, that when somebody is wielding something dangerous that could kill you, and they're posed to do that it's acceptable to defend your life with deadly force. I mean, I think that. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, once you're infected with this human parasite, this living human thing that is inside of you, your life is being threatened, clearly, just based on that fact alone. And if you want to take a measure to defend your life from its threat, I say that's totally within your right as a living thing. Every living thing has a right to defend its life from any threat. And this thing is inside of you. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I mean, I think that is the number one thing. The fact that childbirth is just deadly.
It is, yeah. I guess another thing that I would bring up is that even even if you believe that it's a human life that is at conception that's been made, we know that 1 in 4 pregnancies, early pregnancies, end in miscarriage. So if you care that much about human life, it doesn't make sense to me why you would focus so much on abortion and why you wouldn't focus on miscarriages, early term miscarriages. If 1 in 4 pregnancies, early term pregnancies end in miscarriages, that is where the true pro-life people should be focusing on that area rather than on abortions. It's a huge
Right.
percentage of human lives lost. So.
Right. I often consider that experiment in my mind. Like, how would you try to litigate that kind of thing? I mean,
yeah,
there are so many activities that could potentially lead to miscarriage. I mean, and we don't even know exactly what those are. So, I mean, we're talking about putting every single woman who's any kind of sexually active on bed rest, and any kind of violation of that does end in a miscarriage is, I mean, you got up to go get yourself coffee and you had a miscarriage? Okay, prison.
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's impossible to litigate.
Okay, so that's where we're at now, guys. We've got to work on these states. So we're in these states. I'm in Ohio. Well, I live in Ohio. I'm not now. I'm in Texas. Both of those states are on this list here. I mean, if you're not in one of those states, I guess you could immigrate there and change the voter demographics yourself one by one. You could talk to the people that live there if you have friends and family, and try to motivate them, give them good arguments and discussions, and try to motivate people to change their minds. But I don't know what else we could do. Do you have any other ideas?
I think just reaching out, volunteering, even phone banking. People underestimate the amount of ways that they can get involved. You can definitely get involved. Do phone banking. People are the average person is really not that sure in their beliefs. And if you have the right arguments, you can at least plant the seeds of doubt in them. So I think that's a really good.
I have some petitions and organizations here that people can look at. Now, I haven't vetted these organizations. So those are littered all over this document. I'm not personally endorsing any of them. I'm not telling you that they're, above board or anything. If you want to donate to them, that's totally on you. I'm just giving you the information, and also for the links to any of these senators' personal donations, not personal, campaign donations. That's also on you. I'm not personally telling you to donate to anybody. I'm just saying we don't donate to these people, and now the Republicans have all this power. So look what's going on. So do with that what you will. So I have a bunch of things I have compiled here. I'm going to take this off the screen. Remove that. Excuse me. Just some abortion-related things that people say, and I just wanted to get your take on them. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
And then anything you want to talk about in the meantime, please feel free to just chime in and bring it on up.
Sure.
List.
So there's this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead, please.
Okay. So for anybody who's interested, I really like to look at the Trinaway study. It's the study that they did over 10 years, and they followed, I believe, 1,000 women, and they measured the differences in these women's lives, whether they were turned away from an abortion or they were allowed an abortion. And it's a really, really interesting study. You can look at the different outcomes of each. Generally, people who were turned away from getting an abortion had worse outcomes, overall, throughout their entire lives. And especially if they had existing children, those children were also exposed to worse outcomes as well. So you can Google it. They even wrote a book about it. It's an excellent book, very interesting read. And they talk about basically even things when it comes down to contraception usage, right? A lot of people who end up getting unplanned pregnancies aren't just like people who weren't on birth control. A lot of the times they're people who were on birth control but had a gap in coverage. So it's very, very interesting study. I recommend everybody to read it.
Yeah, can I when you have a chance, just pop that to the private chat, and I will put that in the description too, so people can look at that.
Okay.
Definitely want to get as much information out to everybody as possible, because one thing that I noticed when I was doing all this Googling is that there's so many pro-choice organizations that it's hard to even begin to consider which one or ones to donate to and where your dollar would be the most effective.
Yeah.
I think
and
that we really need to do some consolidating.
I think so. And here's I'm just going to send this link. The second link I sent is basically a sheet that shows it's like a rundown of all of the ways that denying a woman an abortion is harmful. And it lists everything out on these 2 pages, basically, of all the different ways that it's harmful for women and their families. It's a really interesting study.
Okay, I'm gonna. These are 2 different things. Okay, good.
It's the second one or third one. Yeah.
Oh, there are 3. Sorry, almost missed it. All right, I'm gonna copy them in order too, so that way, if anybody's watching this back, they will make sure to be able to see that. Okay, and those will be in the description after this video is over for sure. We did get a chat. Somebody was saying that contraception is a different subject. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, it can be. Sure, it is a different subject, but when we're talking about the reasons people are less willing to be sympathetic towards somebody who wants an abortion, I think it's important to take into consideration what those arguments are going to be. One of those arguments is going to be, why weren't they on contraception? Why weren't they on birth control? And it's not always that people who have unplanned pregnancies are not on birth control. Oftentimes they are on birth control, or they have a gap in coverage. So it's all related.
It may be a bit of a slippery slope, but I think that if you wanted to do the work, you could build a valid argument that it is something that is on the chopping block for sure, as Discorian said it. They're on the chopping block for sure. Let's see. So how do you react when people say things like abortions should be allowed when the health and life of the mother is jeopardized?
The health and the life of the mother is jeopardized regardless. The studies show this, right? Denying a woman an abortion creates economic hardship and insecurity that lasts for years afterwards. And it creates that same economic hardship and insecurity for her existing children as well. So sure, but I would ask that person, what is the line for you? Because I think that it needs to be between a woman and her doctor at the end of the day.
Right. I mean, there are postpartum depression is a thing, and it can be so severe to where the mother will take her life and the life of the child, and sometimes in very brutal and painful ways. So, I mean, what does that mean for the life and health of the mother to be jeopardized? Exactly, because that like I just said, that's a demonstration that meaning is pretty broad.
Even then, oftentimes women also experience domestic violence for the first time when they're pregnant. Like when women get pregnant, that's usually when relationships start deteriorating, and where a significant percentage of women experience the first physical confrontation between them and a partner. So I would say, if a woman's in a situation, and this is one of the reasons that people cite for wanting an abortion, is because their relationship with their partner is deteriorating, and turning away a woman from getting an abortion will then make her more likely to stay in contact with a violent partner, and make her more likely to also expose her existing children to that same violent partner.
Right. let me react to some of these chats real quick, just because I'm not used to doing that. By the way, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Everybody in the chat, I'm going to get better at that in the future, reacting to chats as we go. Usually I save them to the end, and I don't know if any of these are super chats, but I will usually save them all to the end, put the super chats at the top of the list like I do on Modern Day Debate, because that's what I'm used to. But it's time to grow. It's time to become my own person. So here we go. Randolph Richardson was saying that every state in the USA that restricts or outlaws abortion is legislating the enslavement of pregnant people and systematically violating human rights. And I agree with that. They also say contraception. Yeah, we already talked about that. Contraception and gay marriage. We already talked about that. Linda Pendleton said, read the Old Testament and you will see the Judeo-Christian religion held abortion as perfectly okay and even ordered by God. Even infanticide, if I remember correctly. And they even said that life does not begin until the first breath. I believe even 3 times, if I remember correctly, in the Bible. And Eric says that you are ban happy. So some criticism there. Linda Pendleton says Christians don't know their own religion. I agree with that. And Sideshow Nav, shout out to Sideshow Nav for helping me out with preparation, says overturning Roe v. Wade has shifted the fight to state level, which we have a more direct influence over. The responsibility is ours to make our voice heard. And I believe you already agree with that, right, Stardust?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so how do you react when people say things like abortions are used as a form of birth control?
So it's not true. A woman would have to be using abortions as your main method of birth control. I believe you would have to have like 30 some abortions over your lifetime. That's just a ridiculous amount of abortions to have. So it's first off, it's not true. You can, again, the Turnaway study, the book goes into this statistic. Yeah, it's just not true. And even if it were true, that's an argument for us making other types of contraceptive more widely available.
I think that either like either two thing, 1 or 2 people is a whatever, but just because a few people are doing something doesn't mean that necessarily means that that's the rule for everybody else. And I'm sorry, Randolph, if I misread your message and that was not misattributed. I'm so sorry. He says there's nothing wrong with using abortion as birth control. This is a matter of bodily autonomy being protected as freedom and human right, which I totally agree with. It is about that. How do you react when people say things like better sex education in high school will reduce unplanned pregnancies?
I tend to agree. I think better sex education from an earlier age not only reduces unplanned pregnancies, but it also reduces the likelihood of people being abused. So,
right. I think, yeah, totally. Even earlier than high school, if you want, sure. Especially in the home. I mean, I think that we have a culture, a very prudish culture inherited from our Puritan ancestors that neglects our sexual education at a young age, and that is probably the reason for widespread ignorance. Things like people believing that you can't get pregnant when you're in a hot tub or having sex standing up and all that other stuff, which leads to a lot of sex being had without informed consent. So a lot of people are being impregnated without informed consent, which is basically mutual rape. I think that's just my opinion, and I don't mean that to take away from violent rape, but I mean honestly, I do think that if people are totally ignorant to the idea, to the facts of how you get pregnant, and then they have sex, then they are not informed, and then the sex that they have had is not consensual, and that is just what I would like to say about that. How do you react to that? Do you agree with that, or am I off base? I would like to be challenged on that.
I don't know that I would call it rape. I would call it I do think it's uninformed for sure. And I think it's a disservice to children if we're not educating them. I'll agree with that much. So
I mean, I can take that criticism. I think that rape is a very strong word, and I don't want to use it lightly. So, I mean,
yeah.
I would like to swap that word out if I can think of a better one, for sure. Do you have a suggestion? Assault. It's not assault.
Child
It's like
neglect. I don't know. Maybe just neglect is a good word. Maybe I'm not sure.
Well, we'll come back to it some other time, I
Yeah.
guess. How do you react when people say things like abortion is murder?
So again, even if in your heart of hearts you believe that it is a murder, it doesn't, making abortion illegal does not reduce it. People, one for one is replaced by illegal abortions. And those are much more dangerous, and those often result in more deaths. So, so whether or not you think abortion is murder is irrelevant to whether abortion should be illegal or not. It should not be illegal. It's a medical necessity. And if you want to reduce abortions, or you want to reduce deaths, early pregnancy deaths, there are plenty of better ways to do that.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna give you a couple more of these, and I think we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping it up. What do you think? Because I know
Sure.
you have to get ready for your show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on that in a little bit, and I do have to make some adjustments to this description before we go. So, one of the ones on this list that I really wanted to read to you was abortions cause mental trauma to the mother. Have you ever heard of that?
I
I've not
have
heard.
heard of I have heard of that, but it's again something that is not necessarily true. I do believe that giving birth is connected to more serious health problems than having an abortion. Women who were denied an abortion reported more life-threatening complications than women who received abortions, who wanted those abortions. Women who were forced to give birth reported more chronic headaches, migraines, joint pain, and even postpartum depression is something that's incredibly common. So it doesn't always result in like the postpartum psychosis that we're talking about, where it turns into murder suicide. But a lot of women go through postpartum depression.
Right, totally. Ooh, smoking my first time getting a chance to smoke a cigarette while I do this.
Yeah.
Loving it. The biological father should have a say in abortion.
So, what I would say to that is that as of right now in 2022, when you get pregnant, majority of the physical burden falls upon the woman who is carrying that pregnancy. Majority of her, majority of the physical burden, majority of the after lasting health effects fall upon the woman. It's just essentially the woman is carrying majority of that of the work in those first 9 months. So while I may agree that men should have some say in this, until we find a way to even that out, even the amount of burden that men and women share at the beginning of a pregnancy, whether that's external wombs or something else in the future, for now, women carry the brunt of that burden, and it has lasting impacts on their body after that pregnancy. So they should be the ones who are able to make that decision.
Well, I mean, the trans issues aside, right? Because the definitions of man and woman kind of complicate the
Right.
words that we're using here. But all that aside, I would agree with what you're saying entirely. The only thing I would just add is that I think that the biological father's say, if you would call it that, is just you have a. What I say is that your job is to be discerning in who you impregnate, and to know the person that you impregnate before you do so. And if you don't want to have a child with someone, don't impregnate them.
Mhm.
Because once you have given your sperm to them, you have given it to them. You don't you give your things away all the time. You don't get to take them back. You know,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
it's a crude way to say it, I
Yeah.
guess, but yeah. The last one I wanted to read to you is the life. Wait, before I read the last one, I'm sorry. I wanted to just quickly go through these little chats real quick. Randolph Richardson, abortion is only murder if the pregnant person dies because murder was the intended result of the abortion procedure. The fetus is not a person, it's part of the pregnant person's body. Well, I mean,
Sure. Look,
I
I
would
may
say that
agree. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm not going to agree with that one just because
Yeah.
a murder is an illegal and intentional killing,
Yeah.
whereas this would be an accidental um, death. I mean, unless the doctor really did try to kill the pregnant mother,
Yeah.
that probably
Yeah.
has happened. That's horrifying. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sideshow Nav says at Randolph Richardson, I am very aware of the existing laws. Oh, he's read. I'm not going to read it. Somebody else. Take the fight beyond YouTube, beyond Twitter, and make a difference. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Sideshow Nev says, take the fight beyond YouTube, beyond Twitter, and make a difference. It can be done, but it's going to take work and dedication. And I totally agree. And trying to see about establishing what direction that fight needs to go. And I think that, like he said before, state legislators need to be informed of our wishes, and we need to vote what we need to do.
Yeah.
Randolph Richardson says, giving the sperm donor any authority of the pregnant person's decision is unacceptable because it validates the corrupt idea of mistreating women, in particular as property. And I agree with that. I just think that it's violating bodily autonomy all over again in just a different way. Any reaction to any of those before I ask you that last one?
No, I try to, the only reason why I try to be a little bit more center on my stuff is, I'm trying, it's not that I disagree with what people are saying. But if I'm trying to change somebody's mind who's on the other side, I'm trying to meet them at least partway where they are. And so if part of that is saying, well, if a man gets a woman pregnant and she gives birth to that child, he's financially tied to it for 18 years. And how come a woman can choose to terminate that, but a man can't? Well, I'm not disagreeing. Maybe paper abortions is something that we make available to men, but the reason why we give women this choice and men don't get a choice in those first 8-9 months is because women carry the brunt of the burden when it comes to the everlasting health impacts that pregnancy has on her body. The labor of carrying it those first 9 months. I mean, it's just not equal. It's just not equal, the amount of effort that goes into it. And that's why there is more of a decision given to women.
Absolutely. I have nothing else to add to that. Randolph Richardson says, if you're the kind of guy who opposes abortion and your lover wants to get an abortion, then consider yourself lucky for knowing that a potential future wife doesn't share your immoral standards. Okay. Yeah. And last thing I wanted to get your reaction to before we go ahead and wrap this all up is the life of a fertilized egg is as valuable as a 5-year-old child.
I don't think so. I don't view the life as valuable until it has like measurable brain activity. But again, regardless of that, I think that the choice for an abortion needs to be available. Taking away that choice doesn't make it not happen.
Yeah, I agree. I've never heard anybody say that. I wondered if you had. I was hoping
I mean, it's an argument I've used when I've talked to people who are anti-choice. I've talked to them about if you think that a human life begins at conception, then there's the burning building analogy, right? Do you save the
Right, the test
petri
tubes.
dish or the test tubes with the fertilized embryos, or do you save the one live baby, right? Which one is more valuable to you? Is now in vitro fertilization like some deeply immoral thing because it disposes of so many fertilized embryos? Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of questions there. So
Yep. Yeah, but I'm just like, if I can't think of anybody. I hope I'm not misremembering, but I don't think I've known anybody that would actually answer that question. Yeah, save the test tubes, man. Screw that baby. Like I
yeah.
don't think I know anybody like that. Even the most devout Christian, or even especially them. I think, right? Am I wrong? Am I tripping? Somebody tell me.
Yeah, I don't think I've met anybody who has denied that, but I have met people who have said, in the heat of the moment, I would probably choose the baby. But in reality, the test tubes, because of what they believe, they do believe that the test tubes would be
Oh,
the better choice. Yeah.
okay, I got you. So they're like, this is an emotional thing to save the
Yeah.
baby, but logically, we should save the test tubes. Huh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, I'm about to find one of those people that says that. If you know any of them, please send them my way.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I have a ton more things to say, but I know we got to get going, and I really do appreciate you joining me. And
Yeah. Thank you for
I,
having
and,
me.
and have, I can't wait to be on your show,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about what we have to talk about there. Um,
Yeah.
so a little bit of it will be about we're going to talk about grooming.
We're going to talk about the online abortion advocacy. We'll talk about grooming, and we're going to talk about um, uh, basically racism and sexism and the political spheres that they could come from. So,
right. Um, so you know what? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. Stardust, can you do me a little favor if you have
mhm.
a second? Do you think you have the link to that video right, like handy with you right now?
Oh, yeah. To the
To
second.
the one we're gonna do? If
Sure
you could put that
thing.
in my private chat, because I really want to just post that in the
Yeah.
description right now
There you go.
before we go. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, I'm putting that in there. So if anybody wants to follow us over there, please do so. It's going to be right under um, Stardust's links in the thing, and I will label it in a little bit when I have a chance because we're running a show here.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
once again, I just wanted to say thank you. Let me just see the comments, see if anybody else said anything. Disoriented, giving me some love. Thank you again, Jim. Thank you, Uncle Beck, KC Randy, Uncle Beck again, Sideshow Nav, and everybody else who joined us, and anybody who's going to watch us in the future. You guys are the best. And once again, thank you, Stardust, for joining me. And we're going to go ahead and get out of here. But keep seeking truth from facts, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.
Oh, man, I don't even have an outro. So we're just going to end. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. See you.